Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, and welcome to the Unstable Rules Primer / FAQ video, where I am going to go over the FAQ that was posted on the Wizards website for Unstable, as I absolutely love this set. So let's take a look at the rulings that have been given here, because obviously there's going to be some confusion on the weekend if we don't clear some things up. So let's talk about it. First off, we're going to be talking about contraptions. Obviously, we've talked about some of that previously. How do they work? You have a separate contraption deck. You get, basically, here's how it works. Get as many contraptions as you want. You need at least 15 different contraption cards. You can have no more than one of each, so singleton of those only. If you're drafting or playing sealed deck, your contraption deck, however, can be any contraptions you've drafted or opened in your sealed pool, and it's okay to have duplicates. So in a constructed sort of format, one of each only, 15 minimum in your contraption deck, but in a sealed environment, use what you get. And in draft or sealed, do I have to play every contraption? No, obviously you can use whatever you want in your card pool. The back of the contraption card is wild. What's going on there? Your contraption deck has 3 sprockets. At the start of the game, put a crank counter on sprocket 3. Okay, so this is just talking about how the crank will move along. We've talked about that. You move it 1 each turn, and then you get to crank any number of contraptions on the sprocket you have landed on. Now, contraptions are assembled by rigor creature types. The cards will specifically tell you to assemble a contraption. You reveal the top card of your contraption deck, and then you put it face up on one of your sprockets. You get to decide which sprocket you put the contraption on. If you assemble more than one contraption at the same time, you can put them on different sprockets. When you crank the contraptions that are on your sprockets, you can choose. You don't have to crank every contraption, and you can choose the order that you crank them in. They're not cranked in the order that they were placed on the sprocket, but they're done by your choice. These are considered to be on the battlefield. They are artifacts, so they can be affected by cards that affect artifacts on the battlefield. You can destroy them with normal artifact destruction cards. They also, when they leave the battlefield, they have their own separate graveyard called the scrapyard. And if something tries to assemble a contraption and there's nothing in your contraption deck, nothing happens. You don't lose the game like running out of cards and trying to draw. If something like copy artifact is used to copy a contraption, any contraption that's on the battlefield that wasn't assembled immediately goes to the scrapyard. But if it's not a contraption card, like, for example, copy artifact, then it would go to your graveyard. So you won't be able to copy a contraption. The only way to get contraptions into play is to actually assemble them. Otherwise, they go away right away. Host and augment cards. Basically saying host creatures are fairly normal. They each have an ability that trigger when it enters the battlefield. They work just like normal creatures. When you combine them with the additional part, when you have the the augment on them, it's an activated ability that works while the card's in your hand. You reveal the card, pay the augment cost, and choose a host creature to target with it, and then you combine the two together. So you get to take the statistical bonuses or negatives on the augment half and apply them to the base stats of the card. You cannot activate augment unless there is a host creature on the battlefield. You cannot put more than one augment on a single host creature, so you can't go, this is a llama goat man. It can only be 2 things combined together, an augment and a host. How does the game treat the combined creature? The game can see basically anything visible. So you overlap the cards, and all the visible parts are the rule text. The combined creature will have at least 2 artists, multiple colors. Anything covered up in the augment process doesn't count. So anything to the left of the metal bar in the art of host creatures is ignored. Are cards with augment considered creature cards? They are. If something asks you to discard a creature card, you can discard an augment card, but they can't exist by themselves on the battle. Let's say I have a combined creature and I have to sack a creature. Can I sack just the augment card? No. Once you combine them, then that is considered one creature, so you can't split it back up. Last strike is the opposite of first strike. It's pretty obvious. When it comes to what happens if I give a creature with first strike or double strike last strike, then basically it's just going to give it an extra combat damage phase at the last strike phase. So after you've done regular combat damage, anybody with last strike gets to do combat damage. Outside assistance cards. Who counts as a person outside the game? Every person on Earth except the people who are currently in your game. Awesome. I love that. How about players that started in your game but are currently out of it? Sure, they're outside the game now. If you start a multiplayer game and somebody dies, they're outside the game. Does it have to be someone who plays Magic? No, that's pretty clear from the previous question. What if there's no one else around? Well, screw you then, buddy. Dice rolling cards. When you say six-sided die, what do you mean? You mean it? Okay, whatever. Some cards have abilities that trigger when you roll a die. Which die roll counts? Anytime you're instructed to roll a die that could have a numerical result, those count. So any die roll that doesn't have a numerical result, such as a planar die roll, doesn't count. And something in the game must tell you to roll a die. If you roll a die for any other reason to simulate a coin flip, for basically, you can only do it when the cards specifically tell you to. You can't decide, I'm going to use a die roll as a random method of determination when it's not specifically telling you to do that. How does re-rolling dice work? Some cards have effects that let you re-roll one or more die. After the die is rolled, before applying the result to that die, there's an opportunity for you to use those effects. The original result is ignored, and the new die roll is now considered the official roll. The same is true about cards like Snickering Squirrel that affect the outcome of the roll. Alright. Do cards that care about die rolls count all the die rolls if the die is re-rolled? Yes, it cares about them all. So, if you are playing with that squirrel that gets a bonus when you roll a 5 or a 6, if you chose to re-roll the die and got another 5 or 6, it would end up getting 2 bonuses. Can a roll have a result greater than 6? Oh, totally. There are cards that will increase the number of the roll. Things like Snickering Squirrel. So you can move it up to a 7. Watermarks. Watermarks are just the symbol that appears in the back of the text box of the magic card. And they have the faction symbols on the bottom of the contraptions that they consider watermarks as well. So you need to be aware that when you look at contraptions, you won't see a watermark in the back as a symbol, but the lower right-hand corner symbol here does count as the watermark. Now, we've already talked about the 5 factions of Unstable, Order of the Widget, Agents of Sneak, League of Dastardly Doom, Goblin Explosioneers, and Crossbead Labs. Can the Watermark Matters card care about watermarks from other sets? Of course. How do I describe what watermark I mean? If it appears on a card you can point to it. If not, describe it as best you can, like it's the Azorius Guild symbol. All you have to do is find a way to describe it where it could not be considered any other watermark and you're golden. And then they've got card-specific notes, so let's go into that. Animate Library. Can I enchant my contraption deck? No, it's not a library. What happens if Animate Library leaves the battlefield? Well, it says it right there on the friggin' card. Oh, no, wait. No, it doesn't. What am I talking about? Your library stops being a creature, so it leaves the battlefield and goes back to being a normal library. Yeah, so it says if Enchanted Library would leave the battlefield, because it would be like, this is going to leave the battlefield, it just goes back to being a normal library. What happens if my library animated by Animate Library is destroyed? Okay, so that's already covered by the last line. I'm surprised they even need to cover that. Can I enchant or equip my animated library? Sure, as long as it's a creature, you can do anything you can do to it that's a creature. If it's a stop being a creature, anything else will fall off it based on state-based actions, unless you have a rules lawyer out, in which case, then the auras and stuff would stay on your library, even though it's not a legal enchant. As luck would have it. Oh, I haven't even seen this card yet. This one hadn't been spoiled to me yet. 1 green. Enchantment. Hexproof. Whenever you roll a die, put a number of luck counters on luck would have it equal to the result. Then if there are 100 more luck counters on as luck would have it, you win the game. Ah, that's cool. And it even specifies. Count both rolls if you roll a die. That's fun. I like that. And it's got that both fingers crossed. Come on! What die roll cause as luck would have it to trigger? As luck would have it, counts any die roll with a numerical result. So any 6-sided die rolls are in. The D20 from Swords of Dungeons and Dragons is in. Oh, cool. It's not just 6-siders. I do like that. I have 99 luck counters and then proliferate for a lucky 100. Do I win? No, the win con is only checked as the ability resolves. So you can only win after an actual die roll. Baron Von Count. All right, where are the 5 the card talks about? Right there in the art. It's obvious. A numeral is a symbol such as 2, 7, or 0. Written number words such as 5 don't count. Okay, so it actually has to be the number itself. Can the numeral be anywhere on the card? No, it has to be where it's specified in the text box, power toughness box. So things in the art, collector's number, or legal text are not considered. But it's a good call, because the collector's number would make it way too easy. So the doom counter is on 1. I cast a creature spell with 10 power. Does the middle ability trigger? Yes, the number 10 is made up of the numeral 1 and the numeral 0. Yes, of course. What does move the doom counter 1 numeral to left mean? It means move the countdown down by 1. Go from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, what does destroy target player mean? It means they're destroyed. They're done. The game's over for them. Can a player regenerate from being destroyed? Yes. Note, there is no current way to do that. Maybe in a future unset. That would actually be really cool. If you regenerated a player, that would basically make, if you're about to lose the game, you don't. You are back at 20 life, I assume. That'd be cool. Better than 1. What exactly is happening with this card? Your side of the game is essentially turning into a two-headed giant game. All the rules for how you and your teammate work together follow two-headed giant rules. Cool. Does the person I choose have to agree to play? Obviously. That's funny. Any restrictions on who can join me with better than 1? It just can't be anyone in the current game. Alright. Any restrictions on how I distribute the hand library and permanents? No, there are no restrictions. Do they get their own life total? They won't need one, as your half of the game is now under two-headed giant rules. You and your teammates share a life total. When that life total hits 0, your team loses. I chose poorly. My teammate abandoned me. Do I just lose? Good news for you. Unlike a regular two-headed giant game, you can continue to play on. Whatever card you gave your departed teammate remain outside the game. Oh, wow. Okay, that could be rough. I have tricked my new teammate and abandoned them. Did they just lose? Probably. When you leave the game, you take your cards with you, so your teammate won't have much left. Perhaps a new perspective on friendship. What happens if I cast better than one and I'm already part of a two-headed giant team? You're now a three-headed giant team. Congratulations. Now that's fun. Only you can give cards to your new teammate, though, not your other teammate. Don't worry about diminishing returns here. 3 heads have to be better than 2. The big idea. If I use the big ideas effect and roll 2 dice, does that count as 1 die roll or 2 die rolls? It counts as 2 die rolls. Excellent. There are effects on unstable where you roll 2 dice and care about the difference between the two. How does that work with the big ideas ability? First, roll 2 dice, add the total of 2 together. That's your first result. Next, roll 1 die. That's your second result. Then figure out the difference between the results. What? Wow, that's pretty impressive. Can the combined die roll be higher than 6? It can. In fact, on average, it will. Chittering Doom's ability triggers whenever I roll 4 or higher. Say I use the big idea on a die roll and end up rolling 2 3s. Will Chittering Doom's ability trigger? No. Our squirrel friends are looking at every individual die roll, not the combined roll. Hey, here's another card I haven't seen. Blurry Beeble. 1 blue. Artifact creature, Cyborg Beeble. Blurry. This creature can be blocked only if defending player was wearing glasses as it was cast. What? Whenever Blurry Beeble deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. That's hilarious. It cares about whether you wear glasses or not. And it's a Beeble. Oh, it's a Cyborg Beeble. That's amusing. What does it mean as it was cast? It means when you cast the spell. Right when you declare the spell. If they put glasses on afterwards, it's too late. What if it wasn't cast? Then it doesn't have... Yeah, if it was put straight into the battlefield, then he couldn't have been wearing glasses when it cast, so it's unblockable. Do the glasses have to be prescription? No, but they do have to have lenses. You can't make your own. Do contacts count? No. Monocle? No. Sunglasses? Yes. Can I remove my opponent's glasses before casting Blurry Beeble? No. Not forcibly. Leave your opponent alone. You could ask to borrow them, though. Your opponent may fall for it. That would be funny. Border Guardian. 4 mana Artifact Knight. Whenever you cast a silver bordered spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Border Guardian. Wow. Whenever you cast a black bordered spell, Border Guardian can't be blocked this turn. Whenever you cast a white bordered spell, Border Guardian gains double strike until end turn. That's fun! A card that cares about the borders of the cards you're playing with in a different way. That's really neat. And it's got, like, on one side, it's got the Minotaur from normal Magic Land, and on the other side, it's got the Penguin with Octopus on its check from Crazy on Land. I really like that. It's referring to the border edge around the card, not the card frame, which shows the card's color. Alright, the very outer edge of the card. Can a spell have more than one border? Thus far, we haven't printed a single card with more than one border. Okay. By no means. This card lets me mix and match counters in some weird ways. What happened if I put a loyalty counter on a creature, for example? If you put a counter on a permanent that has no mechanical relevance, it just sits there doing nothing. Alright, fair enough. Capital offense. Do all capital letters count or just the first letter of each sentence? All the capital letters count. Proper names could literally be the death of your opponent's creature. Do italicized ability words count? Yes. Although it's italicized like reminder text and flavor text, ability words do count as rules text. If a word is in all capital letters, does each letter count? Yes, clearly. Chittering Doom. What counts as rolling a 4 or higher? Any die roll that results with a 4 or higher. This means Chittering Doom is unaffected by a planar die roll, but it is affected by the D20 of Swords of Dungeons & Dragons. Man, the Sword of Dungeons & Dragons is going to work really great with die rolling cards, considering you get to roll that D20. Chivalrous Chevalier. Can it be a backhanded compliment? Technically, yes, but we have become so jaded in our modern life that we can't we take a moment to honestly compliment someone who's helping us participate in a leisure activity? That's a good question, actually. Can the opponent claim they don't feel complimented by your compliment and force you to return a creature to your hand? No. That's good, because that would be annoying. In a multiplayer game, can you compliment any opponent? Yes, you're even allowed to compliment multiple opponents. Not just for this card, by the way, but for life in general. When do I compliment my opponent? For the purposes of this card, when the ability resolves. For life, whenever you want. Clock of Doom! What does cranking a contraption mean? It means the ability of the contraption on that sprocket trigger. So this is basically giving you another upkeep worth of contraption triggers. Clock Napper. What exactly does stealing a phase means? During that player's next turn, as the chosen phase begins, you treat it as if it was your turn. Let's walk through what happens if you steal each phase. If you steal the beginning phase, you get to untap permanents you control and your opponent doesn't. Abilities that trigger at the beginning of your upkeep happen, and ones that trigger at the beginning of their upkeep don't. Wow, okay, so you steal their upkeep as well. You draw a card, and it's now your draw steps, your opponent doesn't. All that's wrapped up into the beginning phase. Very nice. Pre-combat main phase. You can cast all types of spells while your opponents can only cast instants and spells with flash. Combat phase. Just like combat on your turn, you can attack your opponents with your creatures. The opponent you stole the phase from can't attack with their creatures, but they can block. Post-combat main phase, same as pre-combat main phase. I'm surprised that they won't let you drop a land if you steal a main phase. Ending phase. Most abilities that trigger during the end step don't care whose turn it is, but keep an eye out for anything that does. Effects that last until end of turn of this turn will expire as normal. They don't care whose turn it is. Cogmentor. What does reassemble mean? The contraption moves from the sprockets onto another one of your sprockets. You don't have to advance it in the normal direction, so you can move your contraption in either direction to whichever sprocket you want that it's not currently on. The countdown is at 1. What's a sub-game? Well, for those of you who don't know, you play a sub-game. Basically, you pick up what's left of your library currently in the game and start a brand new game. You leave your current game alone, move over to a new area, start a brand new game, and when you finish that game, then you return to the original game. You take all that was used in that game, shuffle it back up into your library, and return to the original game. It's pretty neat. Bum, bum, bum. Cramped Bunker. Man, there's a bunch of spoilers in here for me. This is a nice little treat. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player moves a permanent he or she controls to touch Cramped Bunker and no other permanents. If he or she can't destroy each permanent that player controls that isn't touching Cramped Bunker, then sacrifice it. What the hell? That's going to be hilarious in action. How much of the permanent must touch Cramped Bunker? Not much. The tiniest of overlap is acceptable. How do I use the card once they're in the Cramped Bunker? You can pick them up to tap them if you need to, but then they must end up still in contact with Cramped Bunker and not in contact with any other permanents. What about tokens? Use whatever is being used to represent the token. That object is what must get in the bunker. Also, you're not allowed to change what the object is once Cramped Bunker appears. For example, if you're using a zombie token card to represent an angel, you can't suddenly decide you'd rather use a penny. Do it yourself, Sarah. Alright. What does it mean it has the text box? Under silver border rules, cards can have more than one text box. They have all the abilities and flavor text of those text boxes. What do you do if a card makes you look at a text within a text box? If anything cares about the text of Do-It-Yourself Seraph, look at all of the text boxes as if they were one. That's pretty simple. What happens if two text boxes contradict each other? For example, say it picks up two text boxes that each set its power and toughness differently. The most recently added text box wins if there's a contradiction. Okay, timestamp order, newest one wins. Nice and simple. Does Do-It-Yourself Seraph keep the text boxes if it leaves the battlefield? No. Let's say Do-It-Yourself Seraph attacks a few times, picks up some text boxes, then it leaves the battlefield and returns to the battlefield. Does it have those text boxes? No, it's considered a new object. Alright, Druid of the Sacred Beaker. Do my contraptions count? They do indeed. Earl of Squirrel. How does Squirrel Link work? You know how Lifelink works? You get squirrels instead of life. Pretty simple. Alright. Oh yeah. Entirely normal armchair. So this is like Cheaty Face? Very similar. Cheaty Face can be snuck in at any time, while the armchair is limited to your turn. But both must be in your hand to work. You can't sneak them onto the battlefield from outside the game or your library or anywhere else. Must it be hidden behind something on the battlefield? No, it can be hidden in plain sight, just sitting there. Can you hide it during another player's turn? No. How long can it be on the battlefield? As long as it doesn't get noticed or sacrificed. Can my opponent attempt to activate entirely normal armchair if they don't know where it is? No, they have to demonstrate they know where it is. Can I just cover it with my hand so they can't see it? No, if an opponent can identify where it is after you sneak it on the battlefield, they can activate the ability to return it to your hand. So you can't just put it down and then put your hand over to go. You can't prove it's there. Alright, every thingamajig. 5 mana artifact. 2 and tap. Move a counter from one permanent onto another. If the second permanent refers to any kind of counter, the moved counter becomes one of those counters. Otherwise, it becomes a +1/+1 counter. Wow, this is very similar to Giant Fan. Tap. 3 and tap. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. 4 and tap. Proliferate. Oh, this is a cool card, honestly. This could be a regular Magic card, it feels like. For the first ability, if I move a counter onto a Planeswalker, does it become a loyalty counter? Yes. For the third ability, can I add another crank counter to my contraption deck? No, the contraption deck isn't a permanent, and to the best of our knowledge, it isn't a player either. Okay. Extremely slow zombie. Why last strike? All right, and these are simple questions. What happened if I give it first strike? Then it's got first strike and last strike. That's not even, you don't even need to spend any time on that. 5 mana for a, oh, 6 mana, 5-finger discount. He stole his dog and put a fire hydrant there. What? Put target non-land permanent into your hand. You may spend mana as though it was mana of any color the next time you cast that card. Dog napping is such an ugly word. I would characterize this as unilateral redistribution of pets. That's amazing. You get to bounce a permanent into your hand and it doesn't have to be yours. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. You can bounce your opponent's cards into your hand. That's awesome. And if it goes to any zone that would be outside of your hand, though, then it's played by normal rules. So if you put it into your hand, you can't shuffle it into your deck. If you discard it, it goes to your its owner's graveyard. All right, give me 5. All right, this is talking about high fives and what are they? Can I high five people without permission? No. Can you high five the same person more than once? Yes, but you're not going to gain anything extra. Must I be back in my seat by the end of 30 seconds? No. When does the 30 seconds start? How do I keep track? The time starts as soon as Gimme 5 starts resolving. To track the time, watches and phones work well. That's what I expected as well. What counts as a silver boarded game? It's a Magic game where at least one person is playing with silver boarded cards. So as long as one deck has one silver boarded card in it, it is considered a silver boarded game. Go to jail. If the die result is altered by another card, what counts as double? If the 2 dice end up having the same result, they're considered double. So you can modify the rolls to make sure they match, and it will still trigger the sacrifice. Goblin Haberdasher, 3 mana, 2/2, menace. Other creatures you control wearing hats in their art have menace. I love this! An accessory in every sense of the word. This is fantastic. What counts as a hat? A hat is a garment worn on the head that's not a part of any other garment. Hoodies are not hats, so if it's a hood attached to something else, no good. It's got to be a separate headpiece. All right, and it's got to be the actual card, the thing represented in the card. It can't be a background creature. That's neat. The Grand Calcutron. All right, I remember already talking about that one. All right, the draws mandatory. Yes. If I'm forced to discard, do I lose cards from my program? Of course. What happens if it leaves the battlefield? Players pick up the cards and put them back in their hand. Graveyard Busybody. What does it mean that all graveyards are also your graveyards? How do you not understand what that means? All graveyards are yours. What's the practical application of gaining control of other players' graveyards? Think about it. Any cards you have that say, I'm as big as the number of cards in your graveyards. It's pretty simple. Say a card like Jace, Bryn's Prodigy asks if I have a certain number of cards in my graveyard. Do I check just one graveyard or can I look at them all? These questions seem really obvious. Are the graveyards still separate? Yes, you don't shuffle them together. A card tells me to shuffle my graveyard into my library. Now, that's a good question. All the cards in those graveyards are shuffled in their own libraries. Okay, so everybody shuffles their graveyards back in. That was a good question. What happens if multiple players each control a graveyard busybody? Ugh. Okay, so timestamp order. Whoever has the most recent one basically takes control of all graveyards, and the person who had the previous graveyard busybody, theirs dies because it's now considered a 0/0. Grusilda Monster Masher. What's a combined creature? We already have discussed that. Oh no, wait, that's when you, yeah, that's the augmented creature, right? Or is that something? Is that a different term? Maybe that is. A host creature with an... Oh, no, okay. A host creature with an augment attached to it is a combined creature. Also, the things made specifically by her are also combined creatures. So when you combine two creatures that each have an ability defining its power and toughness, what happens? If that happens, figure out the result of each ability, then add them together. So a combined Marrow and Knight of the Widget would have power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand, plus the number of Order of the Widget watermarks among permanents you control. Well, that's neat. Can I use the ability to put a host creature and a creature with augment onto the battlefield combined? Yes. Can she combine an augment creature with a non-host creature? You can, but it's probably not a great idea. The resulting creature will have augment and it won't be attached to a host. That means it will die. Alright. Say I use Griselda to combine two host creatures. Can I attack an augment creature to the resulting combined creature? Yes. And that sounds fun. Right on. Handy Dandy Claw Machine. One of my favorite cards from the set here. What is a unique hand? That means that any one hand can be represented only by... That means any one hand can represent only one singular homunculus creature token. A two-handed player will therefore be limited to 2 tokens using their own hands. How do I represent additional tokens? Get additional hands. Any human hand works. Alright, I know just a place. You can get other living people to help you by using their still very much attached hands. Don't cut off other people's hands. Can it be my opponent's hand? If they agree to it. What if the hand stops representing the homunculus creature token? Then the token immediately ceases to exist. It doesn't... that's hilarious. Alright, hangman. Does the word have to be in English? It should be in a language everyone in the game understands. Oh man, you said should instead of has to. That leaves the ability for people to totally go, no, I'm not going to. How do I secretly note the word? Write it down and don't show anyone until the appropriate time. What happens if a player guesses a letter that's a word? The card works like a game of hangman. You write out the spaces for each letter in the word and fill them in as letters are guessed correctly. Well, I gotta say, guys, you did not communicate that clearly on the card. Genuinely. Like, it's not clear that you have to do that. So it is good you're clarifying here, but in the future, they do need to be more clear with that on the goddamn card. If a letter appears multiple times, you should fill in each instant of that letter with the word. You know what? You need to stop using the word should and start using the word must when you're making a clarifier, alright? That really makes a big difference. Please use pen and pencil and paper to help facilitate this minigame. So it's all just begging. I mean, the good news is we're playing with unstuff, so everyone should just be trying to have fun, and it shouldn't be a big issue. If I'm guessing the word, do I have to spell it? Do I have to spell it correctly? If the word's multiple spellings or homophone, you have to identify which word you're guessing. If, for example, I'll guess it's raining as in water falling from the sky, not what I'm doing in this game. Okay, rain as in water versus rain as in I am king. Can a player guess a letter that's already been guessed to load up in +1/+1 counters? No, it specifically says you can't on the card. What happens if Hangman changes controllers? The person who originally chose the word continues to fulfill their duties as letters or words are guessed. Now that this player doesn't control Hangman, they're probably going to have an easy time figuring out the word. Yeah, your Hangman won't stay around long. Hazmat suit used. Oh, look at that. Does he have an oven mitt on? That's hilarious. 4 mana, enchantment aura. Creature gets +2/+1 and menace. Whenever a player's skin or fingernail touches enchanted creature, that player loses 2 life. Okay, so they're basically going back with vile bile concept again. Do I lose life for touching hazmat suit? No, the penalty is for touching the card. Does a card sleeve protect you from this card? No, under silver bordered rules, a card sleeve is considered part of the card for purposes of touching effects. Cool. Can I use my shirt? As long as you're not touching the card or its sleeve with your skin or fingernail, you're safe. Does my opponent lose life if I touch them with the enchanted creature? No. Thanks to Vile Bile, we have a ruling that you lose life for touching it, not for it touching you. So no chasing people around, please. Hot fix. How does the timing for this work? Here's what I recommend. Have someone else use a watcher for a phone that can track seconds. When you're ready, they say go, then count down from 10. If you're still touching any cards in your library when time's up, you have to shuffle your library, undoing your ordering. Can I change anything about the contents of the library? Maybe leave all the cards face up? No. All you can do is rearrange it. You still have to have a single face down pile of cards as your library. Can I rearrange my contraption deck while I'm at it? No. Hydradoodle. Can I choose 0 for X? Yeah, you can, but then it'll just die right away. Ineffable Blessing. If I've chosen Flavorful and another one enters the battlefield, can I choose Bland? Yes. And then you'll have basically each ability. Okay, so what are we going on here? If I choose Flavorful, does the flavor text have to be in the text box? Not necessarily. Lexivore, for example, is eating its own flavor text. It would count. Infinity Elemental. Alright, 7 mana for what? Infinite 5? This creature has infinite power? What? It's so infinite that its flavor text says, 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 it's so infinite that its flavor text says. I had to say that for each iteration. I just had to. This is awesome. It has infinite power. Ah, I love this. That's amazing. What does it mean? Infinity's elemental power is incalculable. It has the largest power on the battlefield, although it will tie with other infinity elementals. Gaining or losing power is meaningless to it, although effects that set its power to a number will still work. Infinite is a lot of power. I'm thinking lifelike. Good idea. Lifelink. Good idea. You'll gain infinite life. What happens if I have infinite life and then get hit with my opponent's infinity elemental? Once you're at infinite life, your life total effectively can't change. At infinite life and gain 2 life, you're at infinite life. At infinite life and lose 29 life, you're at infinite life. You can pay any amount of life. In fact, if you're at infinite life and get hit with an imposing infinity elemental, you'd still be at infinite life. That's a lot of fun. Through different effects, can I convert infinite power into other resources? Is there a question? Oh, it's just saying I can. Yeah, you totally can. Can I have infinite mana? MacLeod does that. Infinite tokens, all this stuff. Oh, so cool. It that gets left hanging. What constitutes not getting a high five? You have to clearly ask for the high five, and the other person must clearly decline. They may shake their head no, turn away from you, or move to a different city. What if there are no people nearby? Most of the outside assistance cards allow you to use a text or phone call, but this one requires actual human contact. If there's no one to turn down your high five, it that gets left hanging won't gain haste. Oh my god, when it says you can ask somebody something outside the game, you could literally like call your mom and be like, Mom, do you like squirrels? That's amazing. Just Desserts. I haven't seen this one either. Red and colorless. Just Desserts deals pi damage to target creature. Pi is the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. It's a smidgen more than 3. 3.14. It's time to put the die in diameter. Flaky the Irrational. This is a fun card. How do I figure out if multiple Just Desserts kill a creature? 1 Just Desserts destroys a creature with toughness 3 or less. 2 destroys a creature with 6 or less. Okay. 4 Just Desserts destroys a creature with toughness 12.5 or less. Alright, that's fun. Alright. What happens if damage from Just Desserts gets redirected to a player? It does damage like normal, but it will create fractional amounts. If you ever have to calculate Just Desserts, you have my permission to use 3.14. For example, if through shenanigans you're hit with the Just Desserts when at 20 life, your life total drops to 16.86. Well, how am I supposed to use my half-life life counter with that? Kindly Cognition. What does refer to? It means having the word artifact or contraption in their rules text. Flavor text and reminder text do not count. Does the type line count? No. Kind Slaver. What does controlling another player means? It means they substitute and make all decisions for the player for that game for that turn. If I'm controlling another player, can I make them go to the restroom or concede? Nope, you can only make in-game decisions, not including conceding. What happens if the person I've listed to control my opponent during the next turn doesn't know anything about Magic? You could go get someone who isn't inside the game to advise. Failing that, suggesting they just say go is acceptable. What happens if the person I've enlisted to control my opponent during the next turn wanders off? Find choices of substitutes you're making. If that happens, assume the controlling player did nothing during the turn except end it. Knight of the Kitchen Sink. Oh, he's got everything but the kitchen sink, doesn't he? Cyborg Knight 2/2. First strike, protection from black borders. Cool. That'll be awesome in the cube. Really awesome in the cube. Phew, for a minute there I thought I'd forgotten the garlic press. Do all black cards have a black border? No, all black cards have a black frame. The black border is the very edge of the card. Alright, going over that again. Knight of the Widget. 3 mana. Vigilance, power and toughness equal to the number of order the widget watermarks. Alright. Do you count contraptions? Yes, you get 2. Krark's Other Thumb. Which die rolls does it work with? Any die roll. Do cards, as luck would have it, count the die rolls that get ignored? No. Ignored die rolls are treated as if they never existed. What happens if I roll more than 1 die? For each die, you get to do the double roll and ignore 1. And what happens when you're dealing with cards like Old Buzzbark? That's a good question. For each die you would roll, instead roll 2, following instructions that apply to the die roll. You might need to use colored dice to keep a pair of dice clear so you can ignore one roll from each pair. Huh. Alright, interesting. That's going to get crazy if anybody gets those two together. Mary O'Kill. Can she be activated from my hand? Yes. What's a Killbot? It's a creature type. How exactly does the exchange work? For all intents and purposes, the card's taking place of the original card in the exact same state. Masterful Ninja. What does it mean to be on the battlefield and in your hand? Now, this is an interesting card. The creature exists in both zones. It's considered on the battlefield for anything that cares about permanents being on the battlefield, and it's in your hand for anything that cares about card being in your hand. Does it cause enter the battlefield's ability to trigger? No. He's just on the battlefield. He doesn't enter the battlefield. What happens if I try to move him from the battlefield to hand or vice versa? Here's an example using Unsummon. That's what I wondered about myself. If your opponent casts Unsummon trying to return it from your battlefield, it's already in your hand, so nothing happens. That's awesome. If it's destroyed, it goes to your graveyard, regardless of if it's still in your hand. And if it's discarded, same deal. Alright. Modular Monstrosity. Which keywords am I allowed to choose? Any keyword ability that appears on any printed Magic creature card. You can't pick keyword actions like Explore or Scry. They have to be specific creature abilities. Okay. And you can't choose modifying numbers as well that are higher than any in existence. So you can't go Annihilator 500. Could you clarify what chosen for a card named Modular Monstrosity today means? Each keyword can only be chosen once on any given day, and that counts for every Modular Monstrosity you play with that day. So even if you have multiple copies. You can't reuse a keyword with a new modifier. Alright, you have to wait until midnight. How do you remember what you chose? Make a list. What happens if I repeat a keyword? You have to pick one that's valid, or it's going to mean you didn't make a choice in time, and you're going to go ahead and lose all the abilities. More or less, what exactly is a number? Any numeral. And number words are very obvious as well. Do a or an count as number words, such as draw a card? No. Why not? They're not number words. There you go. Can I change the number in a mana symbol? You can change a permanent's converted mana cost. That's neat. Change power and toughness. You can change a collector number if you want to. Can you turn a 0 into a -1? You can. Note that cards that would deal 0 or less damage don't deal damage even in silver border game. Alright. Oddly uneven. 5 mana sorcery. Choose one. Destroy each creature with an odd number of words in its name, or destroy each creature with an even number of words in its name. Yes! Cool. A name Wrath of God. That's awesome. The odds are good, but the goods are odd. Alright. That's cool. Does oddly uneven count lowercase words like of or the? Yep, every word in the name. Okay. What if a name has no words in its name? That's funny. It counts as a 0. Old Buzzbark. Do I roll all the dice at once? Yes. What counts as touching the card? When the die finishes rolling, it must be in physical contact with the card or its sleeve. Hitting a card mid-roll doesn't count. Can one die touch and affect multiple creatures? Yep, if it's touching them. Can the dice be of any size? Yes. But not for Old Buzzbark. For Old Buzzbark, the dice can't exceed 1 inch in width. Okay, interesting. Does it say that on the card? X 6-sided dice? No, I guess they just decided that. Can my opponent interfere in any way with the rolling of the dice? No. Ordinary pony. Half pony. Doesn't this go infinite with half squirrel, half? In fact, it does. Half squirrel, half pony allows you to replay any creature with an enter the battlefield effect, which includes all host creatures as many times as you want. Black border shies away from power level errata, but silver border is more lenient when doing so creates more overall fun for everyone involved. Therefore, as Unrules manager with full blessing of the editing team, I'm officially changing Ordinary Pony's Oracle text to, when this creature enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-horse creature you control that wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability this turn, and return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. That will allow you to flicker any creature once each turn. It just doesn't let you go infinite. Alright. Over my dead body. Okay, what's going on with this card? A lot. During combat, creature cards in graveyards can attack and block just as if they're on the battlefield. Attacking creature cards in the graveyards can be blocked only by creature cards in the defending player's graveyard. Remember Shadow, Raging River? Yeah, see, that's what I said when I looked at the card. Same kind of deal. What's Undeath Touch? Death Touch for dead things. I absolutely love it. If creatures in graveyards deal damage to each other, they're exiled. Can creature cards in graveyards attack planeswalkers? Yes. Do other combat abilities work on graveyard creatures? They sure do. Will global effects affect the graveyard creatures? Okay, here's where silver bordered rules get fun. Over my dead body allows you to attack or block with creature cards in your graveyard. If you do, for the duration of combat, the attacking and blocking creature cards are treated as if they are creature cards on the battlefield, which means they can be affected by spells or abilities that would affect creatures on the battlefield. That means, for example, if you have a Lord of the Accursed on the battlefield, other zombies you control get +1/+1. All your attacking and blocking graveyard creatures, which this enchantment makes into zombies, will get +1/+1 while in combat. Very cool. So you can, yes, you can Giant Growth an attacking creature in a graveyard. You can murder an opponent's blocking creature. If a graveyard creature is destroyed, it's removed from combat. It would go to the graveyard, but it's already in the graveyard, but you removed it from combat. Alright. Can I target a graveyard creature that isn't attacking or blocking? Not with anything that targets a creature on the battlefield. Remember, you treat them as on the battlefield only when they're attacking or blocking. At all other times, they're just in your graveyard. Do the graveyard creatures cause attacking or blocking triggers abilities to trigger? Yes. What about the abilities that trigger when a creature enters or leaves the battlefield? No, because they're not technically on the battlefield. Alright. What happens if Over My Dead Body gets destroyed mid-combat? All the creatures stop fighting and fall back into the graveyards. Party Crasher. How in the world does this card work? During each combat, there's a time when attackers are declared. So normally only the active player declares attackers, but Party Crasher doesn't play by those rules. During the declare attacker step of your opponent's combat phase, after they're done declaring their attackers, you may choose to declare Party Crasher as an attacker. After you declare blockers, the defending player can declare blockers for Party Crasher. That is fun. I like that idea. And the fact that you get to attack with them after you see who they're swinging on you, and you'll see if they have blockers or not. That's neat. So a creature can attack and block at the same time. If it had vigilance, it sure could. If my Party Crasher has vigilance in a multiplayer game, can it attack during each opponent's combat phase? It sure can. Awesome. Phoebe had a sneak. Can Phoebe be blocked by a creature with flavor text that isn't... Oh, we've already covered that with Lexivore. What exactly does stealing a text box mean? It means it has it in addition. We know that. What do you do if a card makes you look at text within a text box? You get to look at all of them. If Phoebe steals a creature's text box and will no longer have flavor text, can it then block Phoebe? Yes, a little tension for her. Alright, what happens if two text boxes contradict each other? Obviously, timestamp, newest one wins. What happens to the poor beast of burden once its text box is stolen? Anything defining its power and toughness will go away, so XX creatures will end up dying. Does Phoebe keep the text boxes if she leaves the battlefield? No, only while she's in play. Say a creature with no text box leaves the battlefield and then returns. Does it have its own text box again? Yes, because it would be considered a new object. Can you grant abilities to a creature without a text box? You can. Those abilities will be atop an empty pit of sadness, but they'll still work. All right. Proper laboratory attire. Can you explain what protection from die rolls? Essentially, protection from die rolls is protection from anything that makes use of die rolls. This means if something allows or requires someone to roll a die for any reason, the equipped creature has protection from it. This includes any kind of die, not just a six-sided die. All right. Does a card like Wall of Fortune, which allows you to reroll, and you know what, actually, that's interesting as well. If there were cards that let you roll planar dice and things like that, this would also be protected from them because it's not specifically looking for numerals. All right. Does a card like Wall of Fortune, which allows you to reroll dice, count? Yes, rerolling a die counts as a die roll. Does a card like Snickering Squirrel affect die rolls, but doesn't itself die roll count? No, because it doesn't actually allow or require you to roll a die. It just mentions die rolls. Really Epic Punch. Okay. Can I cast Really Epic Punch if I'm the only player who controls creatures? No, you must target a creature you control and a target creature you don't control. Fair enough. If you control a combined host augment creature, will it get the +2/+2? All right. Oh, here we go. This is the part that I'm wondering about. Does the card says does not say until end of turn. If used on a host or creature with augment, is it +2/+2 for the rest of the game? Yes, the +2/+2 is a permanent effect. That's awesome. It really is an epic punch. I was wondering about that. I'm glad they cleared up that that was not like an error in the text box and that it is actually a permanent +2/+2. Rules lawyer. The first thing. Take a breath. Yeah, this one's nuts. What are state-based action? What does this card do? State-based actions are a list of rules that the game basically uses to clean itself up. They used to call them state-based effects. They're the janitors of the magic rules. Something that should be dead still on the battlefield, state-based actions will clean it up. Player at -3 life still in the game, state-based actions get rid of that player. Aura attached to something that it shouldn't be or not attached to anything at all, state-based actions make it head off to the graveyard. Now with rules lawyers, you start ignoring all that stuff. So, let us break down what it's going to mean for you if you have a rules lawyer on the board. You don't lose the game if you're at or below 0 life. If you try and draw from an empty library, nothing happens. You could hit up an all-you-can-eat poison counter buffet with no... Doesn't matter how many poison counters you have on you. Creatures you control with toughness 0 or less remain on the battlefield. So even if something has been given -X until end of turn, doesn't go away. Creatures you control that have been dealt lethal damage remain on the battlefield. So damage doesn't matter. You can't kill a creature with lethal. Creatures you control shrug off opposing creatures with death touch because state-based effects would look for... State-based actions would look for creatures that had taken damage from a creature with death touch and put them in the graveyard. But that doesn't matter anymore. Your planeswalkers remain on the battlefield even if they have no loyalty counters. Wow, that's amazing. You can control as many legendary permanents with the same name as you want. It's just like a mirror gallery. You can control multiple permanents with the super type world. Hey, you can have a bunch of enchant worlds. That's a lot of fun. Normally, the rule is there's only one enchant world allowed, and if you put in another enchant world, it replaces the enchant world. That's fun. Auras you control stay on the battlefield if they're attached to illegal permanents. We already covered that. Equipment and fortifications you control can stay attached to illegal permanents. So illegal combinations are now allowable. They will stick around. If you somehow control a creature that's attached to another permanent, that creature can stay attached. It can attack and block even if another creature is carrying it. Similarly, if you control a permanent that isn't an aura, equipment, or a fortification, it can stay attached to whatever you manage to get it attached to. Strange. +1 and -1 counters on permanents you control no longer annihilate each other. So you just let them all pile up. Good news for Rasputin Dreamweaver fans. You can ignore abilities of permanents you control that say it can't have more than a certain number of... Oh, cool! Rasputin Dreamweaver can normally only ever have 7 counters on me. It generates 1 back each turn. You can actually take it to the limit! That's amazing. Or I guess there's no limit. The two-headed giant team can no longer lose because you have 0 or less life or 15 or more poison counters. Right on. And in Commander, you're immune to the commander damage rule that says you lose if a single commander deals 21 or more combat damage to you. Awesome. I noticed a few state-based actions weren't listed. What about tokens going poof? Rules lawyer applies only to impermanents you control. Once a token leaves the battlefield, it's no longer permanent, so it'll cease to exist. Same with copies of cards that might exist off the battlefield. so I can't lose the game? Not exactly. The Von Doom, I mean, first of all, he says destroy target player. So you could be destroyed, that's one thing. Any ability that says a player wins or loses the game still works. And don't forget the Rules Lawyer ability doesn't apply to itself. It can die for any number of reasons. If you lose control of it while sitting at negative 34 life, you lose immediately. And again, destroy target player effects will also kill you. How does a creature with 0 or less toughness work? Can it attack and block? It can. If it has 0 or less power, it won't deal any combat damage. If a creature with 0 or less toughness blocks an attacking creature with trample, treat it as toughness 0 when figuring out how much damage tramples over. Sacrifice play. If there's only one attacking blocking creature that could be sacrificed, do I really have to find someone outside the game? Technically, yes. Selfie preservation. What art counts as having a tree in the art? The art must have enough of a tree that it's clearly a tree being pictured. So it can't be in doubt. You must definitively be able to show that it's a tree. Does the tree have to be alive? No. Does a tree folk count as a tree? Of course. Does a stump count as a tree? No. Do non-tree objects in the shape of a tree count? Nope, that's not a tree either. Shellephant. If I have an activated Shellephant's ability, it's a question mark creature. What does that mean? It means it's undefined. It can't just stay undefined. So if it's going to be on the battlefield or something, it needs to know its power and toughness. You should activate the ability to define it. Because if you don't, and it goes into play, it'll die instantly. Can I have it deal 3 damage in combat but have 4 toughness? Not normally, but if you can give it first strike or something, then you can swap it up before each kind of damage is done. Does Shellephant creature type change depending on its size? No. Its creature type line allows you to change it at will. Whether, oh, cool, you get to decide whether you want it to be a turtle, an elephant, or both. Neat. All right, can Shellephant be a turtle nor an elephant? It's an and or, not nor. So yes, you must pick at least one. It has to always be an elephant or a turtle or an elephant turtle. You can never just be, hey, there's the Shellephant right there. Okay, side quest. What counts as a silver bordered game? It's a magic game in which at least one person is playing with silver-bordered cards. We covered that. What happens if the creature dies while it's in the other game? If the creature leaves the battlefield in the other game, it's put into the appropriate zone in your game. Unsurprising. If it dies, it comes back dead. Skull Saucer. If I don't want to put my head on the table, can I still destroy a creature? Clearly. What if we're not playing on a table? What are you playing on? Doesn't matter. Put your head on the playing surface, meets the requirements. Can it be any part of my head? Like my chin? Yes. If my opponent is playing with their head on the table, can I make them lift it up? Not physically, but you can try and talk them into it. I don't know, just spill a bit of water near them, and hopefully it trickles down towards their face and they don't want to get wet. It's the best thing I got for that. Slaying Mantis. I declare Slaying Mantis. Is there any way for my opponent to move their cards before just a second mechanic kicks in? No, there's not. Awesome. That's how it should be. I wish Chaos Orb had this ability. Can Slaying Mantis be dropped from a height of 3 feet? No, it must be thrown, not dropped. The 3-foot distance is horizontal, not vertical. Okay, so that's cool. Slaying Mantis lands touching multiple creatures. How does the fight work? It fights each creature on a one-on-one match. So it lands on a 3-3, a 4-4, and a 5-5. It fights all of them, doing 6 to each of them, but they all get to hit it back. So you combine all the damage. Each creature that's fighting the Mantis takes 6 damage, and they all do all their damage in total back. Slaying Mantis touches a creature mid-flight, but doesn't end up touching it when it comes to rest. Does it still fight that creature? Hell yeah. What about creature tokens? If it touches the object representing the token, it fights. Can my opponent interfere with throwing the card? No. Sly Spy. How do I determine the longest name? Come on now. Sneak Dispatcher. Can I really put a card owned by my opponent into my hand? Yes, God, of course. Can I look at the top card of my contraption deck? No. Oh, wait a minute. This is a different card. I was thinking of a different one. I haven't seen this. What are you? 2 mana for a 2/1. A blue and 2 colors. Tap. Look at the top card of target player's library. If it has an agent of sneak watermark, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. That's cool! You get to look at their deck, and if they're playing sneak, you can snag it. Nice. Snickering Squirrel. When do I decide if I'm tapping it? Right after you see the result of the die roll. Can I use the ability if it has Summoning Sickness? Yes. Can I turn a 6 into a 7? Yes, you can. And you can use multiple on the same roll. Socketed Sprocketeer. You're new to me. 1 blue, 1/1. Tap. Uninstall all results from Socketed Sprocketeer. Then roll a 6-sided die. Install the result. What? You may uninstall a result from Socketed Sprocketeer to use it for a die you rolled. Uninstall a 6 from Socketed Sprocketer. Draw a card. Okay, so wait a minute. Uninstall all results from Socketed Sprocketer, and then roll a 6-sided die. So you roll a die and then you put it on the card. You can uninstall, which would be removing the die from the card to use it for a die you rolled. So you can replace a die roll with a die on it, and you can take 6s off it to draw a card. Okay. The first ability lets you roll a 6-sided die and put that result on the card. This basically saves the result for later use. You roll a 5, you can put the die on socketed sprocketer with the 5 face up. Later in the game, when you roll another die, you can choose to use 5 instead of the result. You'll see the result before you decide. If you have a 6 on it, you can just uninstall it to draw a card. Okay. Spike Tournament Grinder. What banned and restricted lists count for this card? Any list generated by Wizards of the Coast. How do I know what cards have been banned? Here's a list of cards that you can get as of December 2017. All legendary cards originally printed in Legends, Ice Age, or Homelands. Aether Vial, Aetherworks Marvel, A Leaf from Cairo, Ancestral Recall, Ancestral Vision, Ancient Den, Ancient Tomb, Arcbound Ravager, Balance, Bazaar of Baghdad, Berserk, Biorhythm, Birthing Pod, Bitter Blossom, Black Lotus, Black Vice, Blazing Shoal, Bloodbraid Elf, Braids, Cabal, Minion, Brain Geyser, Brainstorm, Burning Wish, Candelabra of Tawnos, Chalice of the Void, Channel, Chaos Orb, Chrome Mox, Cloud of Fairies, Cloud Bows, Coalition Victory, Copy Artifact, Crop Rotation, Curse Scroll, Dark Depths, Dark Ritual, Darksteel Citadel, Deathrite Shaman, Demonic Consultation, Demonic Tutor, Dig Through Time, Dingus Egg, Disciple of the Vault, Divine Intervention, I love that card, Doomsday, Dread Return, Dream Halls, Earthcraft, Empty the Warrens, Emrakul, Aeon's Torn, Emrakul the Promised End, oh Emrakul, you're too powerful, Enlightened Tutor, Entomb, Arayo, Sora, Tommy, Ascendant, Eye of Ugin, Factor Fiction, Falling Star, Fastbond, Felidar, Guardian, Felden's Cane, Flash, Fluctuator, Fork, Frantic Search, Gaia's Cradle, Gauntlet of Might, Gifts Ungiven, Gataxian Probe, Glimpse of Nature, Goblin Lackey, Goblin Recruiter, Golgari Grave Troll, Grape Shot, Great Furnace, Green Sun, Zenith, Grim Monolith Gush, Hermit Druid, Hercule's Recall, Hymn to Turok, Hypergenesis, Hypnotic Spectre, Icy Manipulator, Illusionary Mask, Imperial Seal, Intangible Virtue, Invigorate, Ivory Tower, Jace the Mind Sculptor, Juggernaut Caracas, Curdape, Lantax, Leovold, Emissary of Trest, Library of Alexandria, Limited Resources, Lin Civi, Defiant Hero, Lingering Souls, Lion Eye Diamond, Lodestone Golem, Lotus Petal, Mana Crypt, Mana Drain, Mana Vault, Maze of Ith, Memory Jar, Mental Step, Merchant Scroll, Metalworker, Mind Over Matter, Mind Twist, Mind's Desire, Mirror Universe, Mistress Workshop, Monastery Mentor, Mox Diamond, Mox Emerald, Mox Jet, Mox Pearl, Mox Ruby, Mox Sapphire, Mystical Tutor, Necropotence, Oath of Druids, Orcish Oriflame, Painter Servant, Panoptic Mirror, Peregrine Drake, Personal Tutor, Ponder, Preordained, Primeval Titan, Prophet of Crewfrix, Punishing Fire, Recall, Recurring Nightmare, Reflector Mage, Regrowth, Replenish, Rishon Import, Red of Flame, Raphaelis Llanowar Emissary, Rook Egg, Seed of the Snod, Second Sunrise, Seething Song, Sensei's Dividing Tub, Serendib of Reet, Sarah Sanctum, Shaharazad, Skull Clamp, Smuggler's Copter, Sol Ring, Splinter Twin, Squandered Resources, Stoneforge Mystic, Strip Mine, Stroke of Genius, Summer Bloom, Sunring Titan, ooh, I'm heating up under this hat, Survival of the Fittest, Sway of the Stars, Sword of the Ages, Sword of the Meat, Sylvan Primordial, Temporal Fissure, Thawing Glaciers, Thirst for Knowledge, Thorn of Amethyst, Time Spiral, Time Vault, Time Walk, Time Twister, Tinker, Tolarian Academy, Trade Secrets, Treasure Cruise, Tree of Tales, Trinosphere, Umazawa's Jeet, Underworld Dreams, Upheaval, Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, Vampiric Tutor, Vaulted Whispers, Voltaic Key, Wheel of Fortune, Wild in the Cattle, Windfall, World File, World Fire, World Gorger Dragon, Yawgmoth's Bargain, Yawgmoth's Will, and Zoronorb. I have been playing forever. I've been playing while all these cards hit the banned list, and I wanted to go through that all. Just apparently for the one person who apparently knows how to play Magic, is blind, couldn't read this for the list, and would sit through listening to me go all the way through it themselves. Alright, so the list also includes all cards with the type Conspiracy, but they only work from the command zone, so don't bother. This list would have included cards that mention anti, but there's a rule even in silver border games that anti cards can't enter games that aren't for anti. Okay. And there's a link if you want to see the updated banned and restricted list, because this is only official at time of printing. Split screen. Which library do I draw from? You choose. Do I lose when one of my library empties? Only if you're dumb and try and draw from that library. What happens if I cast a second split screen? You pick one of your libraries and divide it into 4 more sub-libraries. How does this card work with Animate Library? Choose one of your libraries to enchant, it becomes a creature. Does it work with yet another Aether Vortex from Unhinged? Yeah, baby. Any of the 4 revealed cards that are permanents will be on the battlefield. That's awesome. Squirrel Dealer. I love this card. What if the person says they like squirrels, but I suspect they don't like squirrels at all? If they say they do, you get the token. They don't have to mean it. And if they don't give a reply, you create the squirrel token only if they give the affirmative. If they didn't reply, they didn't do it. Squirrel-powered scheme. Can it let me roll a 7 or 8 on a 6-sided? Hell yeah. What happens if I control 2 squirrel-powered schemes? Increase each roll by 4. Does squirrel-powered scheme affect all die rolls? It affects only numerical die rolls. Staff of the Letter Magus. Look at this. I haven't seen this before. It's a big old F. For FU, 3 mana. As Staff of the Letter Magus enters the battlefield, choose a consonant other than N, R, S, T. Consonants are anything but the vowels, right? So you can't pick A, E, I, O, U, Maybe sometimes why? Whenever a player casts a spell, you gain 1 life for each time the chosen letter appears in that spell's name. Okay, so they picked N, R, S, and T because it showed up way, way too frequently. Or are they just doing that because that's like the letters that they would pick in Wheel of Fortune? I don't know. A symbol of blank in blank times. Shows you how easy it is to write flavor text. A symbol of sticks in sad times. Can we choose Y? Yes, we play by popular game show rules here. Y is a consonant. Okay, glad they cleared that up. Can Steel Scroll get a bonus greater than +6/+6? Yes. Considering that Sword of Dungeons and Dragons could roll you a fat old 20, no problem. When I roll a die because of its ability, does the die roll do anything? Not unless there are other cards that care about it. Summon the pack. Can I use any booster pack? If it's unopened and official magic booster pack, yes. If it has no creatures, then you suck and you get nothing. What happens if one of the creatures leaves the battlefield? Then they would go to your graveyard or your hand, however it works normally. Do I have to put all creatures in the battlefield onto the battle? Do I have to put all the creatures in the pack on the battlefield? Oh yes, you do have to, which means be careful you pick legions because Phage the Untouchable exists. Super Duper Death Ray. How does trample on a spell work? It's like how trample works on a creature. XX damage is dealt to the creature's controller. So if I Death Ray your 1/1, you're going to take 3 damage. That's pretty cool. Suspicious Nanny. If Suspicious Nanny somehow deals combat... If a Suspicious Nanny I control somehow deals combat damage to me, can I reassemble a contraption I control onto a new sprocket? Yes, you've earned it. Sword of Dungeons and Dragons. What color is the gold dragon token? Gold. That's not a magic color. It is now. It joins brown, hazel, and pink as exclusive silver bordered colors. Right on. Can I pick gold when asked to choose a color? In silver bordered games, you sure can. 3-headed Goblin. Triple strike is all the strikes for now. Alright, pretty simple. We've already covered that. Urza. Oh my god, Urza. What's going on with this card? Urza Academy Headmaster is just like any other Planeswalker, except you're never quite sure what his abilities are going to do. It's random? Oh! To find out what happens, click. Oh, head to axurza.com. I went there before and I thought they might just show us what the abilities were on the 8th. Please tell me that it's just going to be random every time. There you'll find 3 buttons. +1, -1, and -6. Click the button for the loyalty ability that's resolving and follow whatever instructions appear. It is going to be random! Ah! Can players respond after they see what's going to happen? Nope. It's all part of the effect? Yes! What if I don't like the effect? Can I change my mind and unactivate the ability? No. The effects are all good for you or bad for your opponents, although in some cases you may be able to take advantage. For example, if it ends up your creatures you control get +1/+1 on the turn, you don't control any. Too bad. Urza's unpredictable. How many possibilities are there for each ability? We're not saying. Oh, and the possibilities can change at any time. They're going to update them? Oh my god, that's amazing. Oh, this makes me so happy. But generally speaking, the +1 will produce minor results. The -1 will yield more impressive ones, and the -6 should nicely shake up your game. Can I play this card if I don't have access to AskUrza.com? Technically, yes, but you'll probably be unhappy on how it plays. He's not that unpredictable. Alright. Very cryptic command. For the second mode, how do I treat hyphenated words? Hyphenated words count as 1. Good clarification. Can I use the ability of the Wall of Fortune if it has summoning sickness? Yes, yes you can. Can I tap multiple walls? Yes. Can I reroll any type of die? Say a planar die? Yes. Oh, that's cool. Wow, you know what? That's cool. That might actually make it into the King Cube. Willing test subject. What die rolls does the first ability care about? Any die rolls that have a numerical result. When I roll a die because of the activated ability, no, it only cares about other dice. Okay. And X. How exactly does this card work? You want to exit? Oh, god damn it, I made the same joke as Mark Rosewater. Oh, no. I have to close down my channel. For the first time in my life, I've made the same joke as Mark Rosewater did. Should I delete the video? Should I delete this video? So there's no proof? No, the proof's out there. Oh, God. He said X gonna give it to you, and so did I. Oh, I hate the unset now. I've been rose-watered. He's got the worst sense of humor on the planet, and I made the same shitty joke he did. Alright. Want access to your opponent's cards? X gonna give it to you. But you have to get that X into opponent's hand. You use that by using his activate. I explained how this guy worked when I did the spoiler on him as well. You activate his ability while he's on the battlefield. It goes into their hand. While it's in their hand, you can cast him again if you want, but you also have the ability to pay 5 mana to use his activated ability to start casting stuff for free. So you choose the card as his ability resolves. So you pay mana to say you're activating his ability. Your opponent can respond by casting any instance that they have in their hand, and then you choose what spell you're going to cast. And you can't play a land from your opponent's hand unless it's your turn and you haven't played a land. It's pretty cool that they allow you to play their lands as well as casting their spells. If I use X's ability to cast an instant or sorcery, no, it doesn't go to your graveyard. The cards will go to their owner's graveyard. Can my opponent discard X? Yes, of course. If there's something that allows them to, they can't just choose to. In multiplayer games, can I move X from one opponent's hand to another? Yes, you can. While X is in an opponent's hand, you can activate its middle ability. That's cool. This is unusual, as normally tap abilities can't be activated from a player's hand, but X's first ability says you can, so you can move them around. That's really cool. If the Grand Calcutron is on the battlefield and my X is in my opponent's hand, can I cast cards in their program? No. The Grand Calcutron's ability overrides X. Alright. If it's on the battlefield, can the opponent cast X if it's the first card in their program? No. The opponent can never cast X. Okay. So, that wraps up this insanely long video covering all the different possibilities for uncards. For anybody who made it all the way through, comment and let me know about your Iron Man endurance. I had no idea how long this video was going to be. Good God. Very interesting. Thanks for coming by. Have a good one, guys.
Hey, I'm Josh, and together we're the Six Color of Magic.